Guardian. Guardian?
Eyesupsaf.
Eyes up, YouTube. We got a build for you guys today. And today we're going to be taking a look at the Yunoya gauntlets. We had previously made a build with this, but with the grenade changes, this build is on a whole new level with some massive ignitions and increased damage. I wanted to revisit the build and show you guys the updated version of it. Hopefully you guys enjoy the gameplay showcase. Yeah, the ignitions with this build go absolutely stupid. But the other thing is, in the gameplay showcase, if you guys noticed, we keep restoration ×2 up almost indefinitely, and we always have a healing grenade available if we need to reapply restoration later. But with the weapon setup that we have, it allows us to maintain restoration, as well as our Hellion being able to do so much damage that our restoration keeps proccing and keeps going to the 15-second mark without us losing any time. The reason that I believe strongly that this build is so good on a solar subclass is because of restoration and being able to keep restoration. Devour is really great on Prismatic, and I've tried this out on the Prismatic subclass, and don't get me wrong, it works phenomenally. But the reason that I prefer restoration over Devour is because it doesn't require a kill for you to maintain your health. That's something that the solar subclass just does outstandingly well. But with that out the way, let's get right into the build. So we are running the Warlock solar subclass. Now, in this particular build, I am using Well of Radiance, and let me explain. The reason that I'm using Well of Radiance here is because this build was 100% put together for the fact that my team and I are going to be doing the ultimate conquests this coming weekend, and we're going to need Well of Radiance. However, when you're running this through normal content, I would definitely say to go ahead and use Song of Flame. Going into the abilities, we are running Phoenix Dive because it does come back quicker. We're using Celestial Fire because in something like an Ultimate Conquest, we're going to be at range most of the time, so our snap melee doesn't really help there. So Celestial Fire works really well for long range, but this is 100% interchangeable. Now, on the Solar subclass, you can run any kind of grenade that you really want to. However, I will say this, Healing Grenade with Touch of Flame is the easiest way to get ×2 restoration on a Solar subclass. The alternative to this is to not use something like Touch of Flame and to go with Heat Rises. But just so you understand how this works, you would have to use Heat Rises, you would have to consume your grenade, then you would have to Phoenix Dive, and you would have about 3 to 5 seconds of restoration that you would then have to upkeep. When you use something like a Healing Grenade, you get it instantly, you can go back to shooting your guns, you don't have to worry about upkeeping Heat Rises. So it's just a much simpler gameplay loop to use a Healing Grenade. Now, going into our aspects, we are running Touch of Flame as well as Hellion. Hellion is our main source of damage in this build. And then going into our fragments, we kept it really simple. We are using Ember of Singeing, so our class ability recharges faster when we scorch targets. Then we're using Ember of Ashes. This is a staple in any scorch build, so it allows you to apply more scorch stacks to targets. We're also running Ember of Empyrean, so weapon or ability final blows extend the duration of restoration and radiant effects applied to you. It allows any solar weapon kills as well as our ability kills from Hellion to continue to proc our restoration and extend its duration. And then lastly, we're running Ember of Solace, so radiant and restoration effects applied to us have increased duration. Now, there's a few different weapon setups that you can use with this build. In this particular showcase, I was using Mint Retrograde with Mida Mini Tool and Finality's Augur. This is kind of my go-to setup. The only thing I really ever change out is Mida Mini Tool for Yeartide Apex. For the most part, Mida Mini Tool in most cases is better. The one that I have has Heal Clip with Incandescent. But to give you some alternatives that you can use, especially for instance when we go into this Ultimate Conquest that we're going to be doing, my weapon setup's going to change a bit. So instead of using Mint Retrograde, I'm going to be using Everburning Glitz. And then instead of Mida Mini Tool, I'm going to be using Polaris Lance. Yes, this is a double primary setup, but as you guys know, in a lot of difficult content, double primary setup's really not that bad. So if you got people out there telling you, hey, you're wasting it by not running a special weapon, they're not always accurate, okay? Just to let you guys know, this is a really good setup for something like an Ultimate Conquest, but that's what I'm going to be using for Ultimate Conquest. But the normal weapon setup that I 100% recommend is Mint Retrograde, Mida Mini Tool, Finality's Augur. If you don't have Finality's Augur, you can run any kind of solar weapon here that you want to. Dragon's Breath is a amazing option because Dragon's Breath does work off of your fragments on the Solar subclass. Now, going into our stats, the main stats that we want to focus on here is obviously your grenade stat. If you can get your grenade stat to 200, then by all means do it. If you can keep your super stat at exactly 100, definitely do that. And then if you can do your class ability around 80 to 100, then I would say definitely do that as well. Nothing else really matters outside of these 3 main stats, which are your grenade, your super, and your class. Now, going into the armor, on our helmet, we are running double ashes to assets to allow us to get our super back extremely quickly, as well as 1 harmonic siphon, so that way our solar weapons create orbs of power. In our gauntlets, we are running double firepower, as well as 1 fastball. If I had the ability to take off this grenade mod, I would run a triple firepower, but I want to get as much grenade as I possibly can, and I'm still sitting at 190 with full grenade mods, so can't afford that one. Going into our chest piece, we are running just the normal resist mods. Going into our boots, we have 1 Better Already, as well as 2 solar weapon surges, just to give our solar weapons some added damage, since we are using a solar heavy as well. However, you can switch out Better Already for insulation if you're having an issue with getting your class ability up quick enough. And then going into our bond, we are running Reaper, as well as Powerful Attraction, and 1 Bomber that allows us to reduce our grenade cooldown when we use our class ability. This just helps a little bit if we're in a pinch, we run out of restoration, if there's not enough enemies around, and we need to make sure we get our grenade back so we can reapply restoration. Bomber is interchangeable, however, so if you don't want to run Bomber, you can run Distribution, which allows you to reduce the cooldowns for all your abilities when you use your class ability near targets, and you're almost always going to be using your class ability at least around some enemies, so Distribution does also work really well here. Now, the set that I recommend running pretty much unanimously is the smoke jumper set. So the 2-piece ride together, die together set works really well whenever you do pick up an orb of power. Essentially every time we use our class ability and we get the orbs of power, then we get a brief duration of damage reduction of about 45% that reduces over time. Lastly, I do want to go over the artifact mods that we're using for this. Now, I do have Threadling Proliferation, Pack Tactics, and Energy Acceleration just because in the main version of this build, we are using Mint Retrograde. However, these 3 are not absolutely necessary at all. But the main one is Fever and Chill. This allows us to use our solar weapons to grant Radiant, which is going to become important a little bit later on in the artifact. We also have Cauterized Darkness. So for non-boss combatants, our solar damage is increased, meaning our Hellion, our solar weapons, all are doing increased damage to rank and file enemies. I love Elemental Daze. I've been saying this since day 1, since this artifact came out. If you're not using Elemental Daze, you're missing out on a ton of damage when it comes to champions. And then the 2 main ones here is Radiant Shrapnel as well as Shield Crush. Radiant Shrapnel allows us to create mini Hellions. Even our Finality's Augur can do this, so it works really well with the entire solar setup of this build. And then the best one is Shield Crush. So while we have Radiant, our grenades actually do increase damage. Now that Hellion is changed to being a grenade and being affected by the grenade stat, this also increases the damage that our Hellion can put out, which is huge. So on top of us getting a faster grenade recharge, our Hellion also does more damage because of Shield Crush, and as we get Radiant, which is extremely easy to do when we have Fever and Chill. But overall, that is the build. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Also, leave it in the comment section below. Let me know what you guys thought about the build, if there's anything that you would change. And also let me know if you guys would be interested in seeing us do some full runs of solo content to test out these builds a little bit further. I already do solo runs of these contents. I just don't usually post them as a part of the video because they're usually really long runs, 15 to 20 minutes. And I don't know if people really want to sit around watching that type of stuff. So if you do want to watch it, leave it in the comment section below and I can definitely start incorporating that into the videos. But either way, I thank you guys for all of your support. If you haven't joined our Discord, the link is in the description below. And drop a like and a sub if you liked the video. And I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.